I would say this is American way of mentalism. So what is this driver? The driver of Americanism is capitalism and mass consumption, and their consumerism, American consumerism, and their music, the pop culture, and Hollywood. And who are the mentor? Who made it possible to build Americanism? They are American heroes, like Washington, the first president Washington, and Lincoln, and the great businessman Carnegie, and Mr. Ford, who started mass consumption for the first time in American history, and their cultural icon, like Elvis Presley and Marilyn Monroe. And I would say it is not communism, but Americanism that is really 20th century phenomenon for the global society. If there are some part of the world that remain free from the sweeping wave of Americanism, that is some of the Islamic radical countries and North Korea. So, what is America means? What does it mean for Americans? That is often interpreted as patriotism. So, who can argue against their love of their own country? But however, even if it is good, if it goes to an extreme, that will be the American first self-seeking. So at the expense of interest of other countries. And how about the Democratic president candidate, Trump? The Trump is now setting the new Americanism as his political platform. So it sounds very strong, but actually it is a very weak Americanism. Why? When we look back to history that the United States, they have shown the brightly when they respect the cultural legacy and their spirit. So this is what they say. So you might say, what is Americanism? That is American style. This is American way of thinking the world. American style was what is priority, what is the most important value in their life. As you know, the American who started it, that started with the Puritan people. Who are the Puritan people? They were persecuted in the Britain. So the British people, they used to mock to them. They are very crazy, they are very different, they are too holy. So the Puritanism is the basis of the early colonists in the United States. So what kind of people? They are very conservative. They just follow the way of the life as the Bible say. So then what about Yankee? What is the Yankee? Yankee is the Dutch word. The Dutch people called the American colonists, they are Yankee. So Yankee people, that is, they are calling the New Englanders. So what is Americanism? So in the recent presidential election, there was two camps. One is Republican camp and the other is Democratic camp. So Republican camp that was led by Hillary. So Hillary, and on the Democratic Party that was led by Mr. Trump.
It's the other way around. Donald Trump was Republican and Hillary was Democratic.
I'm sorry. Hillary was led by the Democratic. Thank you for correcting. So the point is why the Trump was appealing to American voters, because he was talking about new Americanism. What is his new Americanism? He said, so America, let's make America great again. Mr. Trump said, America used to be a great nation, but not anymore. Why? Because they are the foreigners, the Korean, or the foreigners, including Korean, they are taking away our jobs from the Americans. So then he said what the what the Americans, that a certain part, a certain group of Americans would like to hear. I will get back to your job. I will get jobs back to you. This is what Trump said. That was really appealing. Why? Because there is a group, a minority group of Americans, they thought they were the victim of the free trade negotiation. So they lost their job. They are uneducated and they used to be working on the factory, but after the free trade deal, the Korean companies or other foreign companies, they built their own factory, and then American factories, they had to shut down. That means that there is a lot of white Americans, they lost their jobs. So this is what Mr. Trump was targeting. They were angry Americans. So actually this is a new Americanism. What is a new Americanism? Is only think about America. Mr. Trump has claimed our priority is America. So, but America now, the current government is spending too much money in taking care of foreign countries. Then he claims that we have too many of our own messes to take care of. So he claims that we are only thinking about America. So we don't have money or efforts. We have enough resources to commit ourselves to foreign countries. So this is the second. America is the first. I will get back your job and I will get money back to you. So Americans. This is America only for the Americans. This is what he claimed. So, and also he said our FTA, for example, the free trade negotiation with Korea, that is one example. Through that, many Americans, they lost their job. I'd like to try to renegotiate our free trade deal with Korea, and if it doesn't work, I would even go far as cancel it. So this is what it says. So now the world is watching. So what kind of Americanism is emerging in the world, and what will be the impact to our country, and what will be his impact of his new leadership on the global society. That could be the potential threat to the safety and the prosperity for the whole global society. So this is one side of the story. So anyway, so this is now your time to cite translate. Now you don't have to paraphrase. This is a cite translation. So that means that you should be faithful to the original text. That is something about global spread of its mission, Christian mission in here. So you might wonder, when does it started? He said, Bible Chronicles here. Bible story, that is a 5,000-year long trail. Maybe you know there are two, 3구 27. There are 39 books of Old Testament and 37 books on the New Testament. 구약과 신약. Anyway, it starts about 2100 BC. It starts with Abraham and Job. So Abraham, the God told Abraham, leave your family, your town, and your country, and go to the place that I lead to you, I designate to you. That's the start of this story, Genesis. Then we have his son Isaac and Jacob and Joseph. That is the story in Genesis. Then we are moving the story of the judge, 사사기, Samson and Samuel and David. That David and Saul is the first king of Israel, and David. And also we have Judah and Israel. So here, and Exodus and the Babylon and return. So the last book of Old Testament is Malachi. This is the last book of Old Testament. Then, that is the first book of New Testament, that is Matthew. 마태복음. Then there is mysteries there. There is a silence of 400 years. There is no story. There is a silence. So what happened during these 5,000 years? So there was something very important in the global society. That is rise of the Greek and the fall of the Greek, and another rise of Roman. And when it comes to language, for the first time in human history, there was global language was available. The first was Greek. Greek was available. So if there is a common language, so if there is no common language, so there would be no way for the gospel to spread throughout the European society. Then it was coincident, and it's a mystery. The timing was right for Jesus Christ to born. When he was born, there was a Greek language that was used as a lingua franca for then global society. Was it a coincidence? And actually the Bible is written by hundreds of authors who recorded a story that took place throughout 2,000 years, and yet there is amazing coincidence among the stories. There is amazing coherence that binds together all the different stories in the Bible. That is a mystery. So anyway, when it comes from looking at the translator's perspective, it is also amazing. Why? Why that Jesus was born when it is ready, when the people can communicate through the Greek language. So this is what? The 400 years history and the Greek. Greek was used as the common language. So that means the Bible should be translated into the Greek if the Christianity was to spread throughout the European countries. And then there was a royal power. Who did it? Who launched the linguistic mission to translate from Hebrew to the Greek? He was the Pharaoh, Egyptian Pharaoh, Ptolemy. So before we are doing the story about the Paul Apostle, the Paul Apostle is the first apostle who spread the gospel to the Gentile. What is the Gentile? Gentile is all the people, non-Jewish people, Gentile, 이방인. So we might have a question, why it is not Peter? Why it is not one of the 12 apostles who lived together, who followed Jesus Christ? And why it should be Apostle Paul, who took the mission of spreading gospel to the Gentile? Why? There are 3 reasons. And one of the reasons is he could speak the Greek. That's the reason he was able to spread. He could communicate with people in the Rome, and wherever he goes, then he can achieve the mission of conversion because he could speak Greek. So this is the Jewish diaspora. Diaspora means a Greek word that means scattered. As you know, the Christians began to be persecuted by the Roman Emperor Nero. Because the Roman Emperor, there was a big fire in the Rome, and the emperor had to find a scapegoat, 희생양. Then he found the Christians. Then Christians was blamed for the big fire in Rome. So the Christians began to be hated, began to be persecuted. And ironically, the persecution, that was because of the persecution of Christianity, the Christianity began to be scattered. They began to be spread throughout the world. So diaspora means, so because of the persecution, the Hebrew people, they began to be scattered throughout the European countries. So some came to the Egypt, Africa, and so all throughout the region, the Jewish people, they were scattered throughout the Europe. So they are diaspora. So diaspora means the Greek word. So the problem is, the first generation Jewish diaspora, they could speak and understand Hebrew. But the second generation of diaspora Jewish, they forgot their mother tongue. So what did you say? They spoke only the Greek language. So this is a map of Apostle Paul's missionary journey. There he took the 3 missionary journey. So what made it possible for him to go throughout the Europe? Because his linguistic power, could speak Greek language. And also he used the rules that the Roman people, they built. So that was the Christianity, that Jesus was born at the right time, at the right place, and when the language is ready, and the infrastructure was ready. So it's a very interesting coincidence. So when the language is ready, then, and also they use the Roman rules and they use the Greek language that made it possible Apostle Paul to spread the gospel throughout Europe. So Bible translation. So that was the mission. The Jesus left the mission. You must spread the gospel to the end of the world. So first, we need someone who could translate the Hebrew to Greek. It was BC 200. Then after that, we need someone who could work to translate from Greek to Latin. And later, finally, we need someone who could help to translate from Greek and Hebrew to English. And at the right time, there was always the right person who did it. Then, how the Bible was translated into one? There was a Greek pharaoh, Egypt Ptolemy. He was a Greek pharaoh of Egypt, Ptolemy, and Ptolemy Philadelphus. And there was 70 Hebrews. So let's get back to our Egypt. At the time, the pharaoh, Greek pharaoh was there, and there was Alexandria. As you know, Alexandria is the city that Alexander the Great built. So wherever the king conquered the city, he always built Alexandria city. And one of the biggest Alexandria city located in Egypt. So at that time, there was a big library in the Alexandria in Egypt. So the library was the biggest one among the libraries. So the historians recorded there are about 200,000 books in the library. But he was not satisfied. The pharaoh Philadelphus, they want to make his library the biggest one. So he was thinking about, is there any other book that I can translate? Then there was a partner who can achieve his dream come true. That was library keeper. Then he come to the pharaoh and said, you know, there is a great book like the Bible, the Hebrew, they are using to worship the God. And if we can translate the Hebrew into Greek, that will be great. Then the pharaoh was accepted his suggestion. Okay, let's start the translation work from the Hebrew to the Greek. That was the history moment of linguistic mission. Then there was a problem. There was no one in Hebrew diaspora who used to be living in Egypt. There was no one. Why? Because diaspora Jews, they cannot understand. They cannot speak the Hebrew. They were using the Greek. So there was a problem. So what should do? The library keeper suggests the pharaoh, then let's send some messengers to Jerusalem. Then in Jerusalem, we can ask their priest, 제사장, to select the smartest teachers of the law from the 20 tribes. Then let's bring them. into Alexandria and let them translate the Bible from Hebrew to the Greek. That was suggestion. Then the Pharaoh accepted his suggestion. And before sending messenger, the Pharaoh commanded there were many Jewish slaves in Alexandria. Let them free. Let them give the freedom. Why? Because he wanted to get a goodwill relationship with the Jewish people. So messengers were sent to Jerusalem, and they bowed down to the priest, and they asked, "We have a Pharaoh. He has ambition to translate the Bible into the Greek. Please help us. Please let us have the smartest teachers of law who is perfectly bilingual between the Greek and the Hebrew." Then priest accepted. Then there were 12 tribes here. So one of them is Judah. Judah is the ancestor of Jesus Christ. 그죠? 자, anyway, 저거 꺼졌다. Anyway, 자, each tribe he selected 6 곱하기 10이면 얼마죠? 76인가? 6 곱하기 7. 70인가? Anyway, he scouted 7 and 6 bilinguals, perfect bilinguals from each tribe to make it fair. 그래서 he made a team of 72 linguists, 72 members. Then they sent them to the Jerusalem. Then Pharaoh welcomed them, and they threw a big party to celebrate their arrival, and they give a lot of presents to these Jewish scholars, bilinguals, and let them have time to translate. Then they translated the Bible from Hebrew to Greek. That is 70인역. 70인역. That is a translation made by 70 people. 이런 뜻이에요. That was the Greek translation of the Bible. And that was because of this Bible, the Bible they began to start the global spread of the gospel. So you can see that's because that is the power of translation. So at that time, if there is no global language, like the Greek language, that the Christian, they could have remained as a religion of only Jewish people, minority people. But there was a global turning point. That was the rise of the Greek as a common language. And the second one was there were some people like the Pharaoh of Ptolemy who had a desire to make his library great. And also there is another partner, library keeper of Alexandria in Egypt, who cooperated with the Pharaoh to make his dream come true. And also there is a team of Jewish people who were the great translators between the Greek and the Hebrew. And this all they combined together to make it come true, the linguistic mission. This is one of the major historic translation mission. So that will be, I would say, linguistically, that is a global point. Then what happened later? The Ram. So the Ram raised the next power to replace the Greek. So we need another translation project to translate from Greek to Latin. Who did it? There is another man. His name is Saint Jerome. It was about 4 BC, 4 AD. And he is kind of personal assistant to the Pope. He was very smart. He's very good knowledge about the theology. Anyway, then at the request of the Pope, he started the translation work from the Greek to the Latin. And the Saint Jerome, he was a very outstanding scholar, and he was also outstanding translator. And it is interesting to find his translation strategy That is different. That is different. That is different according to the text type. So let's take an example. Here's a Saint John, Saint Jerome. So he is about 4 AD. And he is a great translator of the Greek classic literature. And he took up the translation task of the Bible from the Greek or Hebrew to Latin. Then he took a different approach. When we are translating the Greek classic literature, he followed this fluency and of the text reliability. In other words, he said that what is a translation? Translation should be something like imagination power. Translation should be creative. And translator should be creative writer. So that means the translation is something like the creation of a new text. That is a classic attitude. The translation should be something, it's a very fluency, it's very creative, and it should be very imaginative. So this is the attitude. This is the classic attitude about the translation. Then Saint Jerome, when he translating the Greek classic, he always said, well, you can change it. You can get the message, then you should be a creator of a new message. So this is his approach. But interesting to find but he translated the Bible, he took the totally different approach. He said, when I translate the Bible, you cannot be creative. You cannot be imaginative. You should be faithful to every word of the Bible. The Bible is very sacred. The Bible is the holy text. The translator cannot interfere with any words of the Bible. You should be very faithful. You should be literally translated. So when he translated the Bible, he took the different approach. That means he chose the fidelity and of text reliability. So it's interesting, when he translated, there is the Old Testament. When he translated the Old Testament, then he tried to find the rabbi, the Hebrew teachers of law. Then he visited the rabbi, please teach us Hebrew. Please let me know what is the meaning of Hebrew. So he tried to translate from Hebrew. The Hebrew is the original language and was translated in Greek, and it was translated in the Latin. But Saint Jerome, he doesn't want to translate from Greek to Latin. When he translated 구약을 번역할 때는 이 사람은 더 정확하게 하기 위해서 히브리 원전에서부터 라틴어로 곧바로 번역한 거예요. 신약의 경우는 when he translated the New Testament, he translated from Greek to the Latin이에요. 신약은 헬라어에서 라틴어로 번역을 했어요. 근데 구약의 경우는 히브리에서 하기 위해서 히브리 랍비를 찾아다니면서 공부해가면서 번역을 한 거예요. This shows that how he's tried to achieve literalism, how he's faithful. So it's interesting. So anyway, then after him there was a dark age there was 10,000 years of dark age. The translation strategy. 그렇다면 there is translation strategy during the 10,000 years of dark age. What attitude? Most of the translators followed this attitude. That means during the dark age of 10,000 years, translation should be very faithful to the original text. So had a big impact on the translators who followed in the Dark Age of 5 centuries to 10 century. 그래서 이 사람이 지금 번역 전략에 있어서 그 헬라어 고전을 할 때는 굉장히 번안 스타일, 창조성, 그리고 상상력 이걸 벌여서 그러니까 번역은 하나의 창작이다 이렇게 얘기를 했어요. 그러나 성경 번역할 때는 굉장히 원문 그대로 해석하려고 했어요. 그렇다면 이 사람이 나중에 제롬 이후에 중세에는 번역 전략을 어떤 전략을 따랐을까? 이걸 안 따라서 이걸 안 따르고 자 이런 원문에 충실한 이런 축어역, 리터럴리즘 인 코리안이도 축어역이에요. 이게 1000년 동안 번역 전략으로 승계됐다는 겁니다. Okay, this wraps up this our story, and let's take a break. Then after 5-minute break, then you are going to have a pair interview. It should be as faithful as the original text because this is the sacred text. So there should be no human editorial. There is no human opinion. So this is the words of the God. But there was another scholar, there's a Naida. He talking about dynamic equivalence. So that means that the balance, the scale tips in favor of the target audience. The Naida's position is, okay, the Bible is the sacred text, and so it should be very faithful to the original text. But what about the target audience? They could at least understand what it talks about. If nobody can understand it, what is the translation for? So he claimed that we need another translation theory that is dynamic equivalence, 역동적 등가. We need to establish the dynamic equivalence when you translate the Bible. So this is one example. This is the Roman, the chapter 3, verse 18. So that is talking about the works of law. So they justified that maybe in the Roman there is two versions. One is I'd like to ask Yewan, would you please read the left one?
For we hold that a man is justified in faith apart from works.
That is faithful to the original text. Maybe you cannot understand. In Korean, 율법 행위로 justify is 의롭다 하심을 얻다 이런 뜻이에요. 의롭다 함을 얻어. So maybe it is hard to understand. What does it mean? 율법의 행위로 의롭다 하심을 얻을 육체가 없다. So it's very challenging to understand. Maybe Rosette, would you please read the second version of a Bible translation?
We see that people are acceptable to God because they have faith and not because they obey them.
So how's the difference? So which is easier to get the message of this same gospel? This is easier for us. The message is it's not because of what you do. It's because of your faith. They can make you that can save you. It's not because of what you work, but because you believe. Then you can be saved. This is the message of the Roman. So then what is the problem in this approach? So what is the problem with the dynamic equivalence? So paraphrasing test. We are practicing now in the class paraphrasing. What is the paraphrasing? That is we're taking, if you take the Naida's theory on the dynamic equivalence, that what is important as a translator. So you can extract the main message of the original text, then you analyze it, then you transfer into the target language, then you restructure in a way that fits the target audience. So this is why we are practicing the paraphrasing. But is there any problem when we are trying to paraphrase? For example, last class we are talking about new demography. Then 현재인가? 누가 얘기했죠? This new demography is emerging as a threat. As a threat to the global society 했을 때 내가 I gave the feedback threat sounds like a little strong. 그러니까 we need to moderate 한다 그랬는데 when I looking back again, the source text, you are right. The original text it was it's like a 시한폭탄. It's like a time 뭐죠? time bomb이다. 그러면서 it is like the trapped, the human global society may be trapped with a disaster. 이렇게 나오더라고. I found that original text used a very strong word. So what's wrong with the use of the threat? 그죠? So this is why the translators sometimes they need to be act like a diplomat. Sometimes you need to moderate, paraphrase there, depending on the context. 그죠? For example, when I was a part-time translator with the international pharmaceutical company, I was interpreting between the French CEO and the factory labor union. At the time, labor union was emotionally charged and were talking in Korean language 굉장히 violently. So at that time, I was in dilemma. Should I translate literally as they say to the French CEO? That would be, I should be very careful. Why? Because if I literally translate what he says to French CEO, the result could be escalation of emotion. Escalation. He will be also emotionally charged, so there will be escalation of emotion. So sometimes we need to moderate it. That's why the translators should sometimes, like a diplomat anyway, I'd like to correct my feedback, you are right. So you can say the new democracy is emerging as a threat to the global society. But if you say the new democracy is emerging as a potential threat to the future global society, that would be even better. So anyway, let's get back to our this point. Paragraph, is any problem? Yes, it has some problem. It is too explicit, adding or even changing the idea of a source text. So when you are paraphrasing, you should be very careful. You should not change. Sometimes you can moderate the tone, but you shouldn't change the message itself. And for example, is it okay to replace the animals such as the seal and the lamb of God in Arabic culture, where sheep are not well known? So this is one example. So if you try to paraphrase too often, too much, so you should be very careful. Because by doing so, translators may flatten out poetic lines and images or over-translate the literary forms. So I would say this is a domestication, 자국화. So that means, 자국화 means it sounds like, it sounds so fluent for the target language audience. That is 자국화, domestication. In other words, this is going closer to the fluency end of the source text reliability. So, in other words, if the translation sounds very fluent, it sounds like Korean novel for Korean readers, even though it was translated from English. That is a result of the 자국화, domestication, 자국화절이다. 그죠? So, 자국화 and the content, the pulls translation away the history and literary value of the source text. What does it mean? If your translated text sounds too fluent to the target language audience, then its literary value may be sacrificed. What does it mean? So when you translate the English novel into Korean, it is okay to sound foreign, to sound alien. So we will continue with this one. Is here getting back to our adaptation type of text reliability. Adaptation 번안이죠. That recast the original so as to have the desired impact on the audience. This is substantially different from that of original. So anyway, you can skip it. So for example, when an adult text is adapted for children, that is adaptation. 번안이 필요한 거죠. 그리고 unwritten text is adapted for television. 그죠? That is 번안. The advertising campaign designed to associate a product with others, then you should need adaptation as a translation strategy. So, adaptation example. So, this is an example of a movie subtitle. I got it from the Park Chan-soon's her essay. That, for example, that explains our gloominess. So how did she translate it? 그것이 그의 우울함을 설명한다. That is a literal translation, but that doesn't make sense if you use it for the movie subtitle. She translated 어쩐지 풀이 죽어 있더라니. For example, you eat your own as it was feast. 너는 그것이 마치 만찬인 것처럼 먹는구나. 자, it sounds too foreign. But if that is a movie subtitle or documentation, you could or a webtoon, then you should translate 보리밥을 한이 진미처럼 먹는구나. He too was one of the 1940 fires. 40 fires, maybe Baker, she understand what is it? That was 1849. There were many Americans who were moving to the California in order to find the gold rush. So we cannot translate the 그도 역시 49사람의 하나였다. It doesn't make sense. Then you should understand what it means. You should study what it means. So 그 역시도 노다지를 찾아 헤맸다. So adaptation examples for video or movie subtitles. So this is what I get from her book is there. She had never laid her life on the bed of roses. There are several options that the translator can choose. The first is if this is a literary text, if this is a novel, then translator should be like this. 그는 아내를 좀 채 장미 침대에 누인 적이 없었다. It will be okay if this is a novel translation. But if this is for the publisher, but this is the way the publisher would be happy. 그는 아내를 결코 편안하게 해준 적이 없었다. Then you can see it's a little more easily understand than this one. 그죠? For the Korean. But what if this is a movie subtitle, then Professor Park Chan-soon suggests that this should be better. If the text is a movie subtitle, 그 남자는 아내를 콧방석에 앉힌 적이 없어요. 아니면 그 남자는 아내를 편안하게 해준 적이 없어요. This is the better translation if the text is a movie subtitle. 그죠? So she was trying to explain how translation can different. According to whether it is a literature translator, you should be faithful to the original text. So, okay, we will continue with this one, the next class. So now we are moving on to the final translation practice. Now this is your pair practice. So as I said, this is translated English. So I translated from Korean to English. So would you please raise your hand if you sit on the right sided? I would say you are the Deborah Smith. Deborah Smith. And would you please raise your hand if you, and the left hand, you are the consecutive interpreter. 그죠? 자, 지금부터 I will give it 10 minutes. So what you will do is you just read, if you take the rule of Deborah Smith, would you please read the first paragraph? So why did you decide to translate the Korean novel Vegetarian? You said that. After you are done, the consecutive interpreter will interpret in the Korean. Let's practice. So, the one student will speak, and we have 3 parts here. Can you see? There are 3 paragraphs. The first of all, the Deborah Smith will speak the Korean text, the first paragraph, then stop. Then the other student will play as the interpreter. Then you should try to interpret into Korean. Then after you are done, then the Deborah Smith will speak the second paragraph in English. Then after she is done, then your friend, your interpreter, will try to interpret into Korean. So let's get started. 한번 해보자. 자, 왼쪽에 있는 친구들은 전부 여기 인터내셔널 스튜던트는 자, 영어를 문장이 지금 패러프가 3개예요. 영어를 읽으세요. 그러면 다른 친구는 통역 맡은 친구는 영어를 쭉 읽으면서 사이트로 머리로 연습을 하는 거야. 노트 테이킹 해도 돼요. 그러면서 일단 끝나면 한국말로 한번 해보세요. 한국말로 통역을 해보세요. It'll be challenging. 그죠? 한번 해봅시다. 그리고 다음 시간에는 내가 다시 강의를 할 거예요. 그리고 나서 이제 두 번째 또 하는 거예요. 그러면 you will see the difference. 그죠? Anyway, 조금 힘들긴 하지만 한번 해봅시다. Let it go. 자, 한 학생이 한 paragraph, read the first paragraph. You are Deborah Smith. 그럼 the other student will be a consecutive interpreter. 한번 통역을 한번 해보세요. Anyway, let's call it a day. Before we are closing, I'd like to remind you next class we will continue with our Bible trail, how the Bible was translated in English. Then we will start talk about the English idiom that come from the King James Bible. And also we have another translation text for your pair work. And we will continue with the theory about the adaptation. What is the examples of adaptation, translation? Okay, let's call it a day. Have a nice day.